Leary Petrie was born in 1979 in Santa Fe, New Mexico. He wasn't a man who sought the spotlight. He was a regular guy, a husband and a father, who felt a deep calling to serve his country. In 1999 he joined the U.S. Army, driven by a desire to be part of an elite brotherhood. He earned the tan beret of the 75th Ranger Regiment, a direct-action special operations force known as the Army's premier light infantry unit. He deployed multiple times to Afghanistan and Iraq, quickly establishing himself as a fearless and competent leader. By 2008, he was a seasoned sergeant first class on his 7th deployment, this time to Kandahar Province, Afghanistan with the 2nd Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment. The Battle of May 26, 2008. The mission was high stakes, a daylight raid to capture a high-value Taliban commander in a known stronghold. Such missions were the Rangers' specialty, fast, precise, and violent. Petrie was the senior non-commissioned officer on the assault force, leading a team of Rangers from the front as he always did. As the Rangers approached the compound, the situation erupted. They were pinned down in a courtyard by a barrage of enemy fire from multiple positions. The element of surprise was lost. Then a rocket-propelled grenade RPG struck the courtyard. The blast was devastating. Petrie was thrown to the ground, shrapnel tearing into both of his legs. He looked down and saw the damage. His legs were riddled with wounds, bleeding profusely. Despite the searing pain, his mind was clear. He knew his team was in a kill zone. He refused to be evacuated. Instead, he got up. Ignoring his own wounds, he began moving through the open courtyard, shouting orders, rallying his men, and directing their fire to suppress the enemy. He was a beacon of calm amidst chaos, his voice cutting through the crack of gunfire. As he moved to help another wounded Ranger, he saw it. A second RPG was fired directly at his position. It didn't hit the ground. It was coming straight for him and the two Rangers beside him. There was no time to run, no time to take cover. In a split second, Petrie made a decision that defies instinct. He lunged forward, not away from the grenade, but toward it. He reached out with his right hand, grabbed the live RPG and threw it away from his men. In that instant, the grenade detonated. The explosion obliterated his right hand, severing it just below the wrist. The blast threw him back, but his actions had worked. The shrapnel and the force of the explosion were directed away from the other two Rangers, saving their lives. The fight to life, lying on the ground, his legs bleeding, his arm gone. Petrie was in a state of profound shock, but his training took over. A fellow Ranger ran to him, using Petrie's own belt to fashion a tourniquet on his right arm. A tourniquet. Petrie instructed him to tighten himself. Despite the agony, even as he was being carried to a medevac helicopter, he wasn't thinking of himself. He was still giving orders, ensuring the mission continued, ensuring his men were safe. He later recalled that his only thought was, "I'm not going to die here." Road back. The journey that followed was a testament to his unbreakable spirit. He was medically evacuated to Germany and then to the United States. Over the next 2 years, he underwent dozens of surgeries and an intense rehabilitation process. He was fitted with a prosthetic limb. For most people, losing a dominant hand would end a career. For Leary Petrie, it was an obstacle to overcome. He learned not just to walk again, but to run. He learned to shoot a rifle, reload a weapon, and perform every physical task required of a Ranger with a prosthetic. His determination was so complete that he became the first double amputee. His legs also required extensive rehabilitation in the 75-year history of the Ranger Regiment to return to active duty combat status. He deployed to Afghanistan for an 8th time, continuing to lead his men. The recognition on July 12, 2011, Sergeant First Class Leary Petrie stood in the White House. President Barack Obama placed the Medal of Honor around his neck, the nation's highest military decoration, awarded for conspicuous gallantry at the risk of life above and beyond the call of duty. He was only the second living recipient of the Medal of Honor for actions in the Afghanistan War. When asked about his actions, Petrie displayed the hallmark humility of a true hero. He didn't speak of his own bravery. He spoke of duty, of the men beside him, and of the bond that compels a soldier to act. "I just reacted. It was instinct. It was the training, and it was wanting to make sure my guys were safe. The Medal of Honor is not just for me, it's for every Ranger who fought that day, for every soldier who has sacrificed, and for their families." Life after the uniform. Petrie eventually retired from the Army in 2014, not because he couldn't serve, but to dedicate his life to a new mission, helping wounded veterans and their families. He became a mentor and a tireless advocate, working with organizations like the USO and the Medal of Honor Foundation, traveling the country to share his story of resilience. He remains a devoted husband to his wife, Ashley, and a father to his 4 children. He is often seen running marathons, climbing mountains, and living a life that refuses to be defined by what he lost, but rather by what he gave and what he continues to give. Why this story matters. The story of Leary Petrie is not just a story of combat. It is a story of the human spirit at its absolute peak. It is a story that illustrates selfless leadership, a leader who placed the safety of his men above his own physical being. Unwavering courage, making the conscious decision to grab a live grenade knowing the likely cost. Resilience, refusing to let a life-altering injury end his identity or his purpose. In a world often filled with cynicism, stories like Sergeant First Class Leary Petrie's remind us of the profound capacity for goodness, sacrifice, and strength that exists within the best of humanity. He is a true American hero not because he wore a medal but because of the choices he made when everything was on the line.